Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Medicine Tarot. I wanted to have a little discussion today with you about the energy dynamic called codependency. It's a name that we have coined to many different issues in our lives, and I wanted to have a discussion that potentially opens up your mind about it, that brings new ideas forth and helps you on your healing journey in case that is something that you are dealing with. Codependency has become a very popular word. I use it a lot. We hear it a lot now, even in like modern society with young people. They're like, "Oh, so codependent, blah blah blah," right? So it's a thing that's gained popularity, and I feel like every time something does, it's because either our consciousness is shifting enough to realize it, to make us aware, because we're ready to come out of it, or the fact that social media and a lot of these things that are occurring in the internet land are creating some form of a codependent dynamic. And once we go into what codependency actually is, you will see that it makes perfect sense that it would create codependent dynamics inside of people's bodies. Yeah. So let's get started. Codependency, at the end of the day, is just a way you have learned to relate to others. That's all it is. It's an energy dynamic that is pointing towards a specific interrelation, an interrelating of people. Interrelationships are based on what? Giving and receiving. So you have learned to give and receive in a very specific way. The problem with codependency is that it's not healthy for you. It doesn't actually serve you in the long run. It doesn't give you sustainable, positive relationships. That's why it comes up. That's why we need to go about the business of healing this if we are experiencing it. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, am I codependent? Right? Here's a few phrases that people who have suffered with this energy dynamic often say. And they're telltale signs of this occurring for you, okay? I'm constantly attracting emotionally unavailable men. That's the biggest one. That's the most obvious one, really. I feel emotionally depleted dealing with this person. I give, and I don't get the same amount in return. I have a really hard time setting boundaries, and it's hard for me to see people respecting the boundaries that I do set. I'm in a dark void in regards to this person and me emotionally. I feel completely drained and completely used. I'm at the end of my rope, right? Let's just start right there. Codependency can be extremely damaging to people, and I want to give it the seriousness and the respect that this conversation deserves, because it can literally ruin someone. Like, it can ruin someone's life. And I don't say that lightly, because I've experienced like the depths of darkness of codependency myself, so I feel like I'm allowed to say that. But it can be extremely, extremely damaging. And it makes me sad because it's an energy dynamic that can be healed easily. It's not something that can be healed overnight, but it's something that can be healed over the course of 4 months. And I truly say it like that. Once you wake up to what it is and how it works, and you start becoming aware of the way you have been programmed to act and feel, then the reversal of it is not as difficult as you may think. So let's talk a little bit about what this energy dynamic is. I'm going to draw a little picture because it's helpful. So people who suffer from codependency, pardon me here, pardon me. This is you, right? This is you. People who suffer from codependency have been taught a very specific way of doing, which is this. This is you. You give out to this other person, and then the other person, if what you gave them wasn't good enough for them, for whatever reason, they block you. If what you gave them wasn't good enough, and good enough is very arbitrary, right? But they block you. And what happens to you, you are withheld emotional sustenance of support, love, attention, respect, blah, 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 blah. Okay? If this happens repeatedly with a child because a child doesn't know how to give themselves emotional sustenance, they only get it from mom and dad or a caretaker. They literally have no idea of how to give it to themselves. They need it from the outside. If this happens to a child and the parent or whoever doesn't return, they block, the child starts adapting their behavior so that the parent will start returning what the child needs: respect, love, attention, care, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So if you have learned basically to adapt your behavior, adapt yourself, adapt you are inadvertently taught that that is the right way to be, and that in order to get emotional sustenance, you have to basically change yourself or meet the needs of others. Okay? That's basically it. So what happens with this dynamic, right, is that this person is taught that what they are doing or who they are or what they said or the expression of themselves is wrong. They are taught that the expression of themselves is not going to be rewarded with emotional sustenance of love, respect, etc., etc. It's really deep stuff, you guys. Now, our parents, caretakers, or whoever taught us this didn't mean for that. They don't know. Victims of victims, right? They don't know. And yet they learn to block. So later on in life, if we grow up with this energy dynamic in our body, this is the problem. Later on in life, when we get older, we logically understand, like, if I express myself and my friend's like, and blocks me, I logically understand that I'm not worthless. I logically understand that I'm right, potentially, in the situation, or that they should have stepped up for me, but they didn't. Logically, I'm fine, but emotionally, I am void, or I'm, not given emotional sustenance. When you learn this dynamic, you also learn that you, without giving out, can never receive back. So you never learn to give to yourself. Codependent people suffer from a lack of emotional food because they have never learned to give it to themselves. That's it. they've never, and I know that sometimes people want to argue with me about this point. They're like, but no, I do love and respect myself. Great. I'm sure you do in your brain, but in your emotions, you do not. Otherwise, you wouldn't be running back and running back and running back to the same toxic behavior. And it may not even be your toxic behavior, but it's attaching yourself to people who are not serving you, to people who are not respecting you in the way they should, respecting your boundaries, loving you, appreciating you, giving to you the way that you need or should have. Should. I like should. Okay? Why? Because you are not doing it for yourself, because you were never taught to do that. Your emotional, energetic system has one rule in its body, which is you give out to receive back. And if you don't give out, you're going to be running on empty. But we don't know how to give into, right? So that's it. It's that simple. It's not more complicated than that. It's not more complicated. And I believe that 79% of the emotional weight that we feel from being in situations that are in relationships that are hurting us because of our codependency, that 79% of that weight would be lifted once we heal this part. We don't even need to heal them. We don't even need to figure out what's going to happen with that relationship. We don't need to figure out what's wrong with us. Nothing is wrong with us. It's the route we take to fill ourselves up with emotional sustenance that is not helpful, not sustainable, not positive. So when you start healing codependency, the first thing you do is figure out what it is, which we already did. You then start becoming aware of how your body is responding to the outside world. How important is the words of other people, the way that other people are relating to you, how they are, where are you getting your emotional sustenance? Is it always from the outside? You start noticing yourself. Once you start noticing, you start rewriting these pathways by practicing one thing. This. I'm going to draw it first because it's weird to hold. You start practicing this. This is you. And you start practicing going, giving to yourself the things that you need. And when I start doing this with my clients, they go, I feel nothing. Because it takes a minute. It takes a minute for your body to get used to the new source of emotional sustenance, yourself. It feels like nothing, and it feels scary because you're like, no, don't do that. You'll be void. Don't listen to her. Just go out there and get it from someone else. We also are completely unaware because we're talking about energy and we're talking about emotion, and there's no tangible way of measuring it. We also have no idea how much of this is occurring, how little of it is occurring within ourselves. We've already lived in our bodies for 20 plus years, right? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. We've already lived in our bodies. We don't even know how our bodies work because we're used to it. So there's different tools, techniques, ways of starting the realignment of this energy in your body, or I guess the source of this energy in your body. There's a specific way to do it. Right. Now, when people say like, oh, I just need to love myself more. It becomes tricky because we all love ourselves. Like, I love myself. I want to accept everything amazing for myself. But the logical mind can reason yourself in and out of everything. I think I deserve to win the lottery. Why not? I know I would spend my money wisely, right? Like, I can logically accept everything. But emotionally, accepting new routes of relating, new ways of coexisting with yourself is real work. And when I say work, it's not that it's hard, it's that it takes a repetitive way of doing. There's many coaches, therapists out there that can help you do this work. You can start doing this work today, this moment, right now. But so it's exciting. It's exciting to have change, the capability of change within our hands, to understand like, oh, this is what I've been doing. Let me get curious about how I can change this energy in my body and then thereby change my entire reality, which I did. I fully did. And people always talk about like, you can't change other people. True. But when I changed myself, people around me started changing. My boundaries became way more effective. My romantic relationships became way more kind, heart-centered, giving unto me. And yet, the place that I was coming from beneath all of it was that if this person leaves me, if this relationship doesn't work out, I have a foundation of real emotional sustenance that I know how to get from myself. I know how to fill myself up. I will not be in a deep, dark void without them. Right? This doesn't mean that you stop feeling or you stop missing people, but it's a completely different place to be in. And only people who suffer from codependency know the pain of codependency. To people who don't suffer from it, this sounds crazy. It can be like, what's wrong with you guys? But it's real. It's a real thing that occurs in your body. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Let me think if I want to say anything else. Codependency. It's a learned behavior, you guys. We don't need to stay victims of this forever. And it's in many ways one of the most satisfying things to shift, because you shift back into yourself, and the way it translates in your reality and into your life is multi, triple, quadruple fold. It brings a new level of freedom to your actions, because you're like, I do this and I love it and I don't care what you say. In our modern society with like all the social media and the likes and the thumbs up and the subscribers and stuff, codependency rears its head even harder because, obviously because the attention is being placed, on the audience, on who likes me, who's going to give me emotional sustenance. And I don't think that I would ever be able to do this even if I hadn't healed from codependency. And I say that that's a fact. That's not even an idea or a theory, that's a fact. It's not your ego that gets bruised. It's a well of emotional sustenance that is empty. Okay? Thank you guys so much. I'm sending so much love to you. Thank you for all the likes, shares, and subscribes. If you need to get a hold of me, if you're interested in transformational coaching sessions, email me or go to my website. Thank you so much. Mwah. Bye.